Und warum sieht man jetzt nichts? Dankeschön.
Where the player would have to constantly
Oh, hat man aber, ich hoffe, man hat nichts verpasst.
look around and keep blasting them with the flares while making sure to open up the gates in a timely manner. Whatever the case for this ride segment may have been though, eventually the ride would end up on this beach, where then, after going through this shipwreck, the player would end up getting to the prison section where you normally run into Dog Day, suggesting that this may have been the original way to get into that room, as maybe these doors here were originally planned to be locked or something. Strangely enough though, if I enable seeing triggers in the game, there's actually an arrow here pointing in the other direction in the shipwreck. And normally, these arrows are a good indicator of where the player is supposed to go, but based on the gate levers being on the other side of the walls here, I don't think this arrow here is correct, at least for how this ride ended up being developed. I think it's honestly pretty nuts that the developers kept this little ride here and just sealed off the entrance as well as the exit in the prison area with just some simple walls. Like, for 99% of players that play this game, they'd have absolutely no idea that just beyond these walls is a scrap section that's still somewhat functional. And then the other normally unused room in this map is found just behind this red door that you come across in this room not long from the start of this playhouse area. Now, normally, of course, there's no way to open this door, but just beyond it, there's like a weird platforming-like section with these things that look like they should swing. And then in the next room are some more platforms connected to some poles. And just judging on how these platforms are spaced apart and the fact that you can easily jump between them, it's quite likely that there were at least some plans at some point for this to be an area that the player could enter. Unfortunately, even though we can get all the way up to the top, apart from this little vent section that doesn't seem to serve any purpose in this state, there's not really anything up at the top here.
Schade.
Now, to call both of these areas completely unused wouldn't be exactly accurate, as you can actually see them both while playing the game.
Was?
Now granted, they're only visible during the Dog Day chase sequence, as you can see the ride area below you in one of the tunnels, and the other area above you here, so you'd be forgiven if you never really noticed that they were there since you were being chased in the darkness.
Krass.
But I suppose that's probably why the developers kept these rooms in the map instead of just outright deleting them. Though I guess they also could have just covered up seeing them like they did with the entrances and exits. Now next up, there's actually a secret lemon found out of bounds in the school area. Yeah, just behind this window here and then behind this prop is this little lemon fella.
Lol.
Now why is he so fascinated about an out of bounds lemon, you might be wondering. Well, this lemon is actually, I guess, a sort of running gag by the developers of this game. Now, I haven't talked about this in a video yet, but added back to the game in an update to the first chapter back in 2023 was this lemon that could be found on one of the catwalks in the ending section of the chapter before you enter the poppy room. And this lemon actually talks.
Was?
Limon? 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 Limon?
Lol.
Now the lemon lore gets even deeper though, as there's also a secret death screen for chapter 1, which you can get after spamming the fuck out of interacting with the lemon, which will result in another sound effect titled Limon Death to play.
Was?
Limon? 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 Limon?
Limon.
And then after the death screen will just read Limon, Limon. And yeah, this Limon also returns here in chapter 3 as, I guess, a little secret for those snooping around in areas that they aren't normally supposed to go.
Lol.
Limon? Limon? Limon?
Alter.
Limon?
It's a pretty cool little Easter egg, or
Das ist
Easter
cool.
lemon, I guess. I hope they keep hiding these in future chapters.
Ich auch.
And while we're chatting about the school, apparently, originally Miss Delight was going to function quite differently to how she's seen in the final cut of the game. So normally, she basically works like the endos from FNAF Security Breach, where as long as you're looking at her, she'll freeze up, and will only chase you around when you break line of sight. But, as was discussed in a stream of the game on Pastra's channel, apparently originally Miss Delight would only move around while the lights would flicker and shut off, in a sort of red light, green light way.
When this chapter was in its early access stages,
her mechanic was originally that she would move every single time the lights would flicker in the building and turn off.
Oh.
Ich glaube, das wäre nervig
However,
geworden.
playtesters complained that it was incredibly unbalanced, so they changed her to be a weeping angel.
So if you were ever wondering why the lights kind of flicker on and off, seemingly in a sort of repetitive, almost rhythmic nature, that's why. It's actually a remnant from this old mechanic. Now next up, let's go over some unused animations that were shown off by one of the game's developers, Achebe, over on X in an animation reel that he posted showcasing several things that he worked on for this game. And among the animations that are seen in the game are several that went unused, including a more elegant walk cycle for Miss Delight, which is quite the contrast compared to her usual waddle. And honestly, I can't decide which one of these is more creepy. Oh, and also in this reel, we can see a short clip that appears to show the original Miss Delight mechanic we just went over, as we can see her moving despite the player looking right at her. Anyways, next, there are also unused animations for the mini version of Bobby Bear Hug preparing to jump, jumping, as well as falling. And then lastly, there's an unused animation of Catnap's bony hand trying to, I guess, grab at the player through a window, as well as what looks to be an unused jump scare animation also for Catnap. Now, it's not 100% clear where exactly this window animation was intended to be used, but just based on it being the creepy, bony Catnap's hand here, it's likely that this was for somewhere around the ending boss fight segment. And now, last up for this video, let's go over several bits of audio that go unused in this chapter. So I went over the early, otherwise unused radio messages found in the early version of the Home Sweet Home hallucination segment in my previous video. But there are actually a few more otherwise unheard audio files that were used there as placeholders.
Noch mehr.
These include placeholder for sound effects for knocking on the doors there.
Alter.
The very creepy baby screams heard as you approach the smile room at the end of the segment there.
Wow.
There's a pretty creepy sound effect of some heavy breathing.
Oh Gott. Hör auf zu atmen. Na, atme weiter, aber ich hasse Atmengeräusche.
And then, oddly, there's also an unused sound effect for a huggy robot jump scare.
Was?
And it seems like this is the same sound effect from the jump scare for Robo Huggy from Project Playtime, so the file name checks out. In any case, I can only assume that this placeholder sound effect was probably meant for an early jump scare that would result from the hallucination Huggy coming from the TV here. But aside from getting the image to pop up on the TV, nothing else really seemed to happen, so I haven't been able to actually find a way to activate this sound effect in-game here. And then, unrelated from that stage, next are two early sound effects for the flares shot out by the orange hand. One for firing them, as well as one for them burning up. Next, there's also placeholder background music for the intro tunnel segment, and this is actually heard in the early version of that map that I went over in my previous video. It honestly sounds pretty unsettling. Let's have a quick listen.
Oh Gott. Alter. Das ist echt creepy.
also, like I mentioned in the last video, now I found the file for the sound effect used for the press things
Ooh.
clapping out of bounds, listed as press boom.
Nice.
And then we also got some more temporary sound effects, including one for scratching glass,
Fun.
breaking glass,
Ooh.
something powering up, and powering down, an unlocking sound, an early phone ringing sound effect,
Da. Ich denke das nicht gleich.
there's a grinding sound effect for some machinery,
Ach ne, ist doch woanders, das war anders. Ja. Ja doch, war anders. Also der steht auf
a metallic
Bodensound.
echo, a comical sounding slide squeak akin to something used for someone slipping on a banana peel or something. I definitely want to know where that one was meant to be used.
Ich auch.
And then lastly, there are two temporary sound effects for, I guess, Catnap. One for a meow, and then one for him
Jeez.
purring, which honestly just sounds like purrs of a real cat.
Süß. Ich bin eine echte Katze.
Now, we never really see a nice side of Catnap in the game where he'd meow or purr like this, so I
Leider.
guess it makes sense why these
Katzi.
weren't reworked into the final cut. And now lastly, what I think are easily the most interesting bits of unused audio in this chapter are a pair of early phone call messages that reveal a completely different character that was scrapped from the game and replaced by Ollie. And also, the first of these messages starts out
Ollie.
with what sounds like the sound of someone tuning a radio, so maybe the idea was originally that the player would communicate with this unseen character somehow differently, but anyways, the first voice clip seems to be the initial interaction that this character would make with the player.
Okay.
All right, good. I'm glad to see you're still kicking. See that door to the left? Should be a
Nein.
lever hidden right beside it.
And yeah, I guess that this was the one to be used in this room here, and it's kind of hard to understand the ending of that message, but I think he said there should be a lever hidden right beside,
Should be a lever hidden right beside it.
and if that's the case, I guess there initially would have been a lever to open this door instead of requiring the battery that Ollie sends you in the final version. And then, the second of the two early phone messages seems to be for right after opening this door, as the voice mentions a mess that the player made, and I assume that this mess was the train crash.
Yep.
Oh, and also in this message, this scrapped character actually reveals his name to be Ace.
Quite a mess you made here. How'd you manage that? Doesn't matter. If you need a name for me, we'll go with Ace.
Oh, okay.
Making this call on Poppy's behalf. You probably don't want to talk to her right now, I get it. But trust me, she's keeping you here for a reason. Now, there's an escape and play camp, but you gotta help me first. And the first favor you could do for me? Stay alive. Stay away from the playhouse. I'll
What?
call you.
So there you have it. Before Ollie was Gregory 2.0, the more grisly Ace would have been your contact here instead. It's extra interesting too, since typically, as we've seen on this series, although early lines like this are just recorded by someone as a placeholder, they typically are for the same character that's seen in the final version. But this one reveals a pretty big change to the story that appears to have been made, as I assume we'll see more of Ollie in future chapters of this game. And my friends, we'll leave it there for part 2
Ja, das war's.
here, and I hope you enjoyed. There's still a whole bunch of unused models
Okay.
and tech.
Später haben wir was. Wann ist das? 14? Nee, das war jetzt leider noch nicht gedownloadet. Schade. Da würde ich sagen, wir schauen uns die restlichen 2 Sachen dann morgen noch an. Wait, okay. Das Speedrun, den schauen wir uns morgen, oder? Das ist kurz. Schauen wir kurz. Schauen wir den. Ne, 15 Minuten. 12 Minuten. Okay.
Within just 2 weeks of its release, speedrunners have now been able to beat Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 in under 9 minutes. And yeah, this skips pretty much the entire game, but even faster this time. Let's check it out.
Bam, bam. Bin gespannt.
So about 2 weeks ago, I made a video covering the initial unrestricted any % speedrun route for Poppy Playtime Chapter 3, where at the time, the record stood at under 15 minutes.
Jetzt in
And if you
16.
thought beating the game
Schade.
that fast was crazy enough, in a very short amount of time, new strats have been discovered to now bring the
was?
speedrun world record to a crazy time of just under 9 minutes. Like
58,
top runners are already
crazy.
getting to the catnap boss fight in around 3 minutes, which is nuts. Anyways, so unlike my previous video from before official rules for this any % category were established, here the time for the run starts not at the intro cutscene, but
Nice.
rather as soon as you start to move in the trash compactor area. And
Okay.
because of this, you'll actually want to not start moving right away, but instead wait until you hear the sound of the alarm in the background noise 10 times.
Was?
Now this might
Okay, interessante Regel.
seem a bit cryptic, but since things around this area, namely the piston platform section ahead, are time dependent, waiting at the start for 10 of these beeps will optimize when you should get to it, so you don't waste time there by having to wait for the next cycle in case you miss it by the time you get there.
Oh,
And
okay.
since time for the speedrun doesn't start until you start moving, there's quite literally no penalty to doing this. Anyways, yeah, once we start moving on the 11th beep here, we can start the timer and head up the slope to get to this part of the compactor wall that we can slip out through. Unfortunately, unlike in the previous runs where runners were moving during the intro cutscene to start the compactor section earlier, which would have had this gap open by the time we got there, now we actually have to sit around for a couple of seconds to wait for it to
man.
open. Anyways, once out, we can zip up to this area using our handy dandy grab pack, get through this little hall to jump onto the piston there. And to save a bit of more time, we actually don't even have to jump onto the other pistons here, as
What?
we can just ride up this first one for a bit, and then jump onto this yellow pipe ledge, which takes us right
Hello.
to the room with the hole in the wall. Then from here, we can make a sharp left and go through the red door and subsequent hallway, which brings us to the second piston platforming segment. Now, I teased this next trick at the end of my previous video, and since then, it's been solidified as one worth doing every single run. So here you'll want to move far enough into this room until the graphic for the auto-saving feature pops up. And this not only indicates that the game is in fact auto-saving like it says it is, but this also lets us get the next checkpoint that, as you'll see in a bit, we'll need to get back
Hello.
into the map. Once that's done, we'll actually want to backtrack a bit to the previous area above the trash compactor, get up to this busted console thing, and then grab this chair. And if you've watched my previous video, you might already know where this is going, but just
Nein.
like how we used barrels in the
Oh.
previous video to make our own barrel elevators to fly up and glitch out of bounds, here we'll grab this chair on the top with both grab pack hands, face our back to the ladder on the wall here, and start pulling to lift us up to the vent above, where here we get to do
What?
the first of several crazy tricks of this run. After letting go of the chair and walking back for a bit to position ourselves before grabbing onto it again, we'll actually want to reduce the frame rate the game runs at to 15 frames per second in the
What?
options. To keep things simple here, basically the lower the frame rate, the faster the objects you pull will move. And now, with this reduced frame rate, pulling on this chair will absolutely just send us into the sky, or dark,
Whoa.
empty void, I guess I should say.
Holy.
And we can basically launch ourselves above and across the map all the way to the train tracks just before the entrance to the cable car that takes you down to Playcare.
Cool.
Just before landing, we'll want to revert the game back to 60 frames per second, and then after we land, we can waddle over to just outside the walls of the map here and drop down. And doing this, we can trigger yet another autosave point where after pausing the game and reloading the last autosave, this will take us back in bounds. Doing this insane trick not only saves
That's,
having to do the second piston
that is
platforming
fast.
section, but also the first battery and green hand puzzles, and more importantly, the first otherwise unskippable section where the player is introduced to Ollie, who you normally need to wait for to stop yapping before he gives you the battery which you need to proceed. So yeah, not only does this trick look really cool to pull off, but it's also quite useful for shaving off some time. And we're not done with the crazy chair antics just yet, as after going through the security room, doing the first power puzzle there, and throwing the levers here to open up the cable car to play care, we can grab this chair and use it to pull ourselves up on top of the cable car, and then once up there, we can move a bit to activate the trigger point that loads in the next map. Then once loaded back in, thankfully the game keeps us on top of the gondola here, and then we'll want to grab yet another chair from below and bring it with us down to the start of the upcoming tunnel segment here. And after flipping it around to this orientation and getting into proper positioning ourselves, we basically rinse and repeat what we did with the first chair boost. Lower the FPS to 15, pull, and away we go. Whee!
Hey.
This time we turn on the jets, I guess, as this boost takes us up way higher than the previous chair. Now these chair boosts may look easy, but they're actually quite tricky to get consistent, and if your positioning isn't great, you can get some unintended consequences.
Oh.
Anyways, after floating for a bit longer until you get to around the top of the PlayCare dome that you can see below, you can drop onto this dome panel, which you can easily just clip through all the way to the edge of the map here. And after changing the frame rate back to 60 FPS and doing a little hop of faith across the gap here, we can get back into the map and walk backwards into the next trigger to load the next section of the game. Without this second epic chair boost, you have to sit through another normally unskippable section where Playtime Company's founder explains PlayCare and such, and you also skip having to go under the statue to get the key from Ollie, so yet again, pulling off this insane chair boost can yield some quite worthwhile time savings. The barrels were the MVPs in the previous speedrun video, but I think chairs have definitely overtaken their throne this time.
Oh yeah.
Anywho, next we get to the gas production zone, and this time we don't even bother grabbing the purple hand yet as we did before. Skipping it here saves about 10 to 15 seconds-ish, but it also comes at the cost of running the risk of seeing the real Catnap appear in the hallway to the left of the computer terminal in the final fight. Without the purple hand there, if that happens, you're guaranteed to get bamboozled, which will kill the run, but if you're competing for the top speedrun time, those extra seconds saved are worth the risk. Back to the run though, we'll need to make our own elevator again, since we don't have the blue battery yet to power on the elevator that takes us up to the final boss fight. Some runners now have migrated to using these more narrow gas cylinders as their elevating object of choice, but I still tend to find using the barrels a bit more reliable here. Whatever your choice of object to lift you here though, we once again take it to the wall to the left of the elevator, which we can fly up against to get onto this platform out of bounds. And then we do the same thing again against this out-of-bounds wall to bring us up to the back of this door, which, moving against, can cause the game to load us into the next room, and bam, just like that, only a handful of minutes in, we're already at the final boss.
Boss fight.
The boss fight here doesn't change all too much since my previous video, as it's still something you need to do for over 180 seconds, and there's not really anything you can do to skip that. That said, a new trick that was discovered is that if the real Catnap appears in the top hatch, you can basically just trap him there by simply just letting go of the door just before you pull it shut and then starting to pull it again right after. Since there can only be one real Catnap on the map at any time, all the others will be the fake phantom ones, making the rest of this fight rather easy, as then the only thing you really need to worry about is plopping in the green batteries into their slots as needed, while also not pulling the top door shut or keeping it open for too long to keep Catnap trapped there. I honestly wonder what would be going through Catnap's head just seeing you open and close the door like this on him for several minutes. Anyways, after over 3 minutes of powering up the computer and
Das haben wir auch gemacht.
keeping Catnap looped in the vent, we can eventually
Wir haben quasi einen Speedrun-Trick benutzt, Lul.
supercharge our green hand and launch it at Catnap to get him nice and crispy before the prototype's hand comes down and tickles the back of Catnap's brain. The run isn't quite done yet though, as we still have to head back down and then start up the ending cutscene. So
Ja, davor haben wir es ja auch richtig versucht.
next up, we can do a
Und wir hatten auch einmal 0 Sekunden.
trick that makes it so we finish this run without taking the elevator at all, as by hitting the elevator's button with the grab pack and then immediately walking away and then back to it slightly close to the edge, we can trigger the next loading screen and start off in the upper section from where we can drop back down into the map, and I guess free falling is faster than the elevator as this actually saves a few more seconds. And now finally we get to the game's ending scene, and for a while it was thought that this was just a 3-minute unskippable segment. But recently, a new strat was discovered that effectively slashes this in half. So after starting the cutscene, we can grab the green battery there and then waltz all the way across the main gas production zone to open up this door to now grab the purple hand after all, since we lost our green hand defeating Catnap. And after getting it, we'll actually want to grab onto the green VHS tape in the same room, but just hold it there.
Nice.
Then we can head on back and this time grab a gas cylinder from the main room and bring it into the elevator room. And while still holding on to the VHS tape super far away, we'll want to hop onto the cylinder here and pull up with the left hand. Once it starts to float up a bit, we can finally let go of the VHS tape and then grab the cylinder with the other hand too. And basically why we had to do all of this is that this causes the game to make the cylinder fall really slowly for some reason. And then if we take it over to the elevator and drop it down this gap, we then want to get over to this guide rail thing along the wall, and then we kind of just float here for a while until we can hear the elevator start up above us, and by doing all of this admittedly pretty confusing stuff, we actually tripped the trigger that activates the final part of the ending cutscene. And with this, by slowly floating down here while Poppy dishes out the last few bits of her dialogue, we can hear Kissy Missy meeting her unknown fate that I guess we'll see in Chapter 4, and as the screen cuts to black, that is time for the speedrun. And with all of these tricks, we've skipped over Home Sweet Home, the school and playhouse, and even watching the Hour of Joy tape now. And now that I think about it, taking this speedrun route, we don't even get introduced to Ollie at all. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm not very good at most of these chair boost tricks, let alone the final gas cylinder thing, as like I said, although some of the tricks here may look easy, they can be quite tricky to get consistent without getting blasted off into areas you don't necessarily want to go. In fact, I got a slower time using these strats compared to the older ones, so yeah, although the new tricks can save lots more time, they definitely aren't as beginner friendly. But in any case, as it stands as of the making of this video, the current world record is held by Barney Goose with an insane sub 9 minute time of only 8 minutes and 51 seconds. It's a really cool run, so I highly recommend checking it out. I'll have it linked for you down in the description below. But my friends, that is speedrunning Poppy Playtime Chapter 3. Will the world record time sink much lower? Maybe, but I doubt it'll be as much of a time save as it was up to this point, as the current runs have already gotten rid of 2 lengthy bits of the run that were eating up a lot of time. So I think just below the 9-minute mark is where the runs will hover, at least for a while. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, check out some of my other speedrun videos, and be sure to subscribe to the channel to find your way back here in the future. And as always, thank you all so much for stopping by today, and I will see you in a bit.
Ja, doch. Ja. Ah, was können wir das? Ah, nee, dann, okay. Nee, das würde mich interessieren, ob der Weltrekord immer noch gleich ist. Was? Ach so. Nee. 9,45. Oha. 10, 16 Tagen. Nee, warte, ich bin verwirrt. War da nicht irgendwie 8,51? Was? Bin ich verwirrt. Ja. Hä? Ach, warte, wahrscheinlich restricted. Nee. Das ist auch über 10 Minuten. Out of bounds. Inbounds. Oh Gott. Alter. 44 Minuten. Was? Warum wird es dir beim Spiel vom Kongo nicht angezeigt? War es ins Spiel vom Kongo nicht eingereicht oder wie? Angezeigt ist es ja definitiv nicht. Jetzt bin ich verwirrt. Lol. Ja, das ist ja weird. Naja. Oder Plot-Twist. Der Dude hat gecheatet und deswegen wurde es entfernt. Ich bin angemeldet, okay. Aber ich glaube eigentlich nicht. Ich glaube, das hätte man mitbekommen, wenn der gedingst hat. Ich bin 49. Crazy. Okay, dann würde ich mal sagen, den Streamplan kriege ich dann morgen noch rein, aber es wird ja alles random Stuff sein. Pauluten? Ich schaue, Pauluten schaue ich irgendwie gefühlt so gar nicht. Ich habe ja auch irgendwie nie wirklich geschaut, glaube ich. Ja, doch, das war Pauluten. Hab ich ihn geschaut? Warte, jetzt muss ich nochmal nach. Oder? Paul Luten. Oder macht er gerade... Ich bin gerade nicht sicher, ob er das ist, oder... Wie habe ich Paul Luten geschrieben, Alter? Bin mir gerade nicht sicher. Ben... Ah, doch. Oder? Macht er... Jetzt bin ich mir unsicher. Doch, die Fernbus-Simulator-Videos, die schaue ich, aber die sind auch schon unglaublich lange her. Weil sonst... Also, ab und zu schaue ich die mal, die Fernbus-Simulator-Videos. Nee, die rollen mich. Eigentlich müsste ich auch die Supermarkt-Videos anschauen. Ah, doch, das war auch Paul Luten, fällt mir gerade auf. Auf jetzt das Spiel nochmal. Den Fernbus-Simulator, den habe ich. Ja. Wo ist das Spiel nochmal? Oh Gott. King of Retail, war das er, wo ich das geschaut habe? Wenn ich jetzt gerade am Schauen bin. Ja. Das ist er, okay. Das schaue ich noch aktuell. Auch noch. Ach, habe ich auch schon Ewigkeiten nicht mehr geschaut. Weil, wenn wir schon mal dabei sind, wollen wir was Interessantes machen. Einmal meine ganze Steam-Bibliothek durchgehen. Warte, werden die meine Favoriten auch angezeigt in der Liste? Nee, okay. Den Supermarkt-Simulator. Achso, Moment. Müsste noch in der Wunschliste sein bei mir. Ich glaube nicht, dass es bei Steam... Wobei, man kann sich irgendwie Wunschkarten irgendwie schicken, aber ich weiß nicht wie. Aber ich glaube, du brauchst dann auch mein Dings. Ja, das war der, ne? Oh, 20% gerade? Was? Was der? Ich habe so viele Supermarktspiele in der Playlist. Wunschliste, nicht Playlist. Hä? Oh Gott. Da müsste der sein. Glaube ich. Denke. Nee, das ist Train Simulator. Lol. Ah, wo war denn das mit dem? Kommt drauf an. Manchmal kaufe ich bei Steam. Manchmal kaufe ich aber auch auf Instant Gaming. Ist immer unterschiedlich. Ich gucke mal, ist Steam günstiger oder Instant Gaming? Und je nachdem, was günstiger ist, dann kaufe ich es dort. Wo war denn das mit dem Steam-Guthaben? Ach, hier. Könnte man... Ah doch, versenden, ja. Dann irgendwie crazy. Ich glaube, man muss dann befreundet sein, oder? Ja, okay. Also es kommt drauf an. Oder manchmal auch kaufe ich mir auch eine GOG Galaxy. Okay, einmal. Oder... Ich weiß halt nicht, wie du heißt. Ich habe das auch super lange nicht mehr gemacht. Heute dann dein Dings. Ach hier, befreundet zufügen. Okay, habe ich schon gefunden. Ist das der Freundescode? Ja, okay. Ja, und jetzt? Was mache ich denn das? Ja, und jetzt? Ich bin verwirrt. Was? Was muss ich denn jetzt noch machen? Ach so. Ach, das ist... Ach so, oh, Bro, das war da. Oh. Das ist... Hoppala. Was war das? Ich hoffe mal. Ich stelle jetzt einfach mal eine Freundschaftsfrage. Ja, okay, gut. Dann würde ich sagen... 115 auf der Wunschliste. Die sind wir schon mal durchgegangen. 115. Alter. Ah, ich habe noch eine Menge drin. 115, Alter. Das ist übertrieben viel. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Alter. Warum habe ich... Hier ist übrigens auch ein Supermarktspiel. Ja, aber dann hier noch eins. Dann noch eins. Noch... Ach nee, das ist noch eins. Nochmal... Oh Gott, wo waren das? Hab ich schon wieder vergessen. Steam-Geschenkkarten. Das ist auch Steam-Geschenkkarten. Boah, ich weiß nicht, ob du am PC oder Handy bist. Per Handy kann ich gerade nicht nachschauen, weil ich da gerade... Akku leer. Das ist heute eben gerade leer gegangen. Also Handy kann ich leider nicht nachschauen, nur am PC. Aber müsste dann hier die tolle Steam-Karte verschenken. Versenden, nicht verschenken. Und dann... Kebab-Simulator, habe ich den? Kebab-Simulator. Ach, das ist der hier. Ja. Was ist denn das? 4 GB? Oh, das wird wieder so lange dauern. Vermutlich. Oh, ETS Rise abgeschlossen. 10 Minuten, okay. Oh mein Gott, ja. Gut. Was habe ich nicht an? Was habe ich nicht an? Ach so. Umstellung. Anzunehmen, was? Wo habe ich das überhaupt deaktiviert? Hier sieht man, wo ich das überhaupt deaktiviert habe. Was ist das? Komische. Produkte, was? Verwirrt. Und Details. Ich dachte gerade kurz, da steht meine ganze Telefonnummer. Nee. Aber eine ganze Shop-Einstellung. Oh no, oh no. Aber man sah trotzdem was. Noch nicht berechtigt, dieses Geschenk zu empfangen. Man sah aber trotzdem was. Oh no, man sah meine PayPal. Hoppala. Aber gut, dass ich 2 FA da habe, also. Nee. Noch nicht berechtigt, dieses Geschenk zu empfangen. Warum bin ich nicht berechtigt? Mein Gott. Boah. Steam-Rückblick? Nee, nicht Steam-Rückblick. Ah, jetzt bin ich schon wieder hier. Meine Güte. Hier in Bibliothek, Steam-Guard. Nee, hier ist es ja auch nicht. Oh ne, so kann ich dann nicht hier hin. Und das. Sicherheit. Das wird ändern. Nee. Das ist Familienbibliothek. Chat? Nee. Chat wird es nicht sein. Übertragung? Nee. Verwirrt. Ja, das mache ich auch gleich. Also ich werde ihn noch auf YouTube hochladen und dann zensieren alles. Aber ich mache den auch gleich direkt dann auch privat. Bin verwirrt. Warum kann ich keine Dings empfehlen? YouTube, der mich auch. Steam. Geschenk. Kaufen geht nicht. Keine Ahnung. Nee. Das ist Precious. Geschenk. Ja, andere. Wir müssen wir die Gutscheinkarte einlösen. Rechnungssicht, ich weiß gar nicht, was da. Oh Gott, was da alles gerade drauf stand. Schlimm ist es, wenn da Adresse steht, irgendwelche Zahlungsinformationen. Und ja, das war es auch ja eigentlich schon. Ich weiß nicht, ob man das gesehen hat. Ne, ich bin gerade auf kein Video. Jetzt will ich auch einfach mal ausblenden. Wäre nicht das Versuche Statistik? Nee, Statistik wird es nicht sein. Nach Steam Cloud Update suchen? Nee. Anzeigen. Haben wir es denn? Oh, stimmt, der Name ist auch nicht gut. Oh Gott, haben wir es gesehen? Ach du heiliger Bimbam. Ach ja, stimmt. Meine E-Mail-Adresse. Ups. Immer ja, was? Ne, mein Inventar was glaube ich auch nicht. Ah, ich nehme Inventar. Oh. Okay. 800 Angebote? Achso, okay. Wo war denn das? Profil? Irgendwie so eine Privatsphäre-Einstellung. Einkaufsverlauf, nee, Sprintstellung. Nö. Niemand. Nee, Steam will ich nicht löschen. Nee. Ah, wo waren die Privatsphären-Einstellungen? Man einstellen kann. Ich Sprache was? Warum ist Steam so kompliziert? Spielserver, nee. Sicherheit? Passwort, Steamguard, Backup-Code? Nee. Oh, E-Mail-Adresse ist aber übrigens auch nett. Noch eine andere. Oh, das ist eine super wichtige E-Mail-Adresse, merke ich gerade. Weil das die ist, womit ich meinen Twitch gedingst habe. Meinen Twitch-Account. Einfach mal los. Okay, alles klar. Dir eine gute Nacht und danke, dass du da warst. Und tschüss. Ha. Keine Ahnung. Nicht mal lang. Ich mach nicht mal lang. Naja. Keine Ahnung. Wo das ist. Ich denke.
Hallo zusammen und herzlich willkommen zu einem kleinen, weil ich den Namen dieser Person eigentlich, ich glaube, ich wusste auf der Wunsch und auch in den Bahnen.
Man kann doch irgendwo. Zeigen so Details? Nein, das ist schon das. Ah, was Video oder was meinst du mit Wieso? Was meinst du? Ja, das Problem hatte ich auch, dass ich Videos nicht löschen kann, zeigen kann. Mit zeigen meine ich senden. So verwirrt. Oh mein Gott. Batani. Datenschutzeinstellung. Profil öffentlich, Spieldetails öffentlich, vorderste oder Inventar öffentlich. Steam-Geschenke immer geheim halten, auch wenn Nutzer mein Inventar sehen. Was ist, wenn ich das ausmache? Ich habe mal einen Haken weggenommen, also keine Ahnung, ob das jetzt geändert hat. Also kein Plan. Aber das wird auch nicht sein. Lol. Eigentlich nicht. Nee? Okay. Kein Plan. Bin ich noch nicht berechtigt. Das verwirrt mich. Aber sein was? Wann ist man unter La? Gute Frage. Oh, ich sehe das Problem. Das kann auch nicht funktionieren, weil wir müssen auf Steam mindestens 3 Tage befreundet sein auf der Freundesliste. So, es sagt das hier einer Guy. Also keine Ahnung, ob das stimmt, aber es sagt ein Guy. Zumindest steht, dass es sagt das ein Guy. Keine Ahnung, ob das der Wahrheit entspricht. Aber Steam Support, Steam Geschenke. Was, Steam, wie kann ich geschenken, also Nutzer kaufen, aber kann ich ja schon wieder versehen Nachricht verpassen. Oder mein Spiel widerrufen. Mal darauf. Ding, ding. Was passiert mir davon? Nee, da steht leider auch nichts. Drei Möglichkeiten 2024, Alter. Junge. Ja, geschlagener Konsole nicht. Vermutlich. How weird. Was, wenn ich jetzt Just for Fun sagen würde? Bam. Ah. Das ist weird. Ich kann nicht wirklich einen Haken machen, da dass es sich keiner Geschenk ablehnen will. Das ist so weird. Also keine Ahnung, woran das liegt. Das ist entweder stimmt diese 3 Tage da wirklich oder keine Ahnung. Bam, 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 bam. Noch ein Artikel. Okay, die Website ist nicht erreichbar. Cool. Na, ja, nichts mehr. Schenken, so schön keine Zeit. Okay, aber ich glaube, diese 3 Tage stimmen da wirklich. Sadly. Naja. Ja, wir haben gleich schon 23 Uhr. Wenn ich sagen würde, etwas für heute. Leider, ich muss das nicht bekommen an meinen Bildschirm hinzufügen, mehr gespart. Aber ein anderes Thema. Aber das war's für heute. War auf jeden Fall ein schöner Stream. Vielen Dank an jeden einzelnen, der da war. Mega cool. Morgen machen wir dann mit Random Stuff weiter. Wir sehen uns hoffentlich dort wieder um 19:45 Uhr. Bis dann und tschüss.